Is Binance going to crash the markets like FTX? Is Binance going to collapse and send us all into the dark ages? If XTX... Damn, dude, this is so fucking hard. Is Binance going to crash the market? Is Binance going to crash the market like FTX did back in 2022 and send us back into the dark ages? Today, we are here to talk about all of the FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, surrounding Binance and Binance.us, and talk about all the 3 to 4 letter organizations, the SEC, the DOJ, the CFTC, as well as other countries' claims that they have against the world's most popular crypto exchange, so that you guys know what to expect. Without further ado, let's get started. And remember, none of this is financial advice. Always do your own research. All right, from the top, let's start with the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice has recently come out and said that they are considering levying fraud charges against Binance. However, they are treading carefully because they don't want to cause a bank run on Binance. So what that means is they potentially have something very serious, and they don't want to say it out loud, because what that might cause is all of the people who have money on Binance going to Binance and quickly withdrawing their funds. So let's say that in total, customers have $60 million held on an exchange like Binance, which, by the way, please God, don't leave your crypto sitting on an exchange. I think we've all learned our lesson from FTX, yeah? But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that's the amount, 60 million. But for some reason, the liquidity is half that. Let's be generous too. Let's say that only 30 million is available in, I don't know, USDT, Tether, or any kind of stable coin, right? So once that 30 million is gone, then the rest, the other half, that 30 million, it's unwithdrawable. You can't, if I can't trade for if I'm trying to trade you Pikachus for Squirtles and you don't have any Squirtles left, I'm stuck with my Pikachus. Same thing with crypto or anything, really. If you don't have it in stock, I can't get it. So that's what we're worried about here, that if they say we're doing fraud, everyone's going to run and quickly withdraw their cash. Not only is that going to cause a severe strain on the Binance ecosystem, but it could also cause a massive plummeting of prices in the crypto markets. The CFTC is after Binance for allegedly encouraging American investors to continue using the Binance exchange while based in America. And it shouldn't have been allowed at that time. For instance, we got Binance reportedly helped its Chinese users bypass the country's ban on crypto transactions, allegedly trading 90 billion worth of cryptocurrency. Hero shit. And then finally, we have the Securities and Exchange Commission, and you guys probably know this one, but the SEC is always just coming after people for selling unregistered securities. Basically what that means is the Securities and Exchange Commission considers itself the lord of all investments that are deemed securities. And if there is an investment contract, essentially with the promise of future rewards, more often than not, that will be considered a security. So if you sell any sort of investment, whether that's a token, a crypto, or anything else, NFT, to a large audience, and they have an expected future return, likely the SEC will come after you. The SEC has detailed what CZ and Binance.us have done, which is basically this paragraph right here. They said that CZ and Binance exercise control over the platform, meaning Binance.us, customers' assets, which means they could commingle the assets or divert them as they please, because they did this using Sigma Chain, which is an asset owned by CZ. The SEC's complaint further alleges that BAM Trading and BAM Management US Holdings, remember, this is the business name of Binance.us. These guys, BAM Management, misled investors about non-existing trading controls over the Binance.us platform, and Sigma Chain engaged in manipulative trading that artificially inflated the platform's trading volume, aka wash trading, aka trying to make your wiener look bigger than it is. Finally, they allege that the defendants concealed the fact that Binance US and Binance was commingling billions of dollars and sending them to a third party, Merit Peak Limited, which was also owned by CZ. So this is pretty damning. And if we take a look on the global scale, they've also got a few other countries that are kind of pissed off with them. So we've got Europe, Binance is under anti-money laundering investigations in France. They left the Netherlands in June of this year due to its failure to secure a license from the regulators. They withdrew a crypto license application in Germany. I already mentioned what they did with China and helping Chinese users bypass the Great Firewall of China. So clearly this points to a larger issue at hand. But that's not all. Earlier this summer, a number of very high-ranking officials left the company, and this doesn't look great either. The general counsel, the chief strategy officer, the senior vice president for compliance all left, reportedly over the exchange's handling of the DOJ investigations. Now that's for Binance, and if we take a look at Binance.us, more recently, the Binance.us CEO has left, and the exchange has cut 1/3 of its workforce. Now, it's important to note that Binance.us, they are blaming this 1/3 of the work layoff due to these regulatory pressures that are now being thrust upon them. So, for instance, the market share of Binance.us dropped by more than 22% in April to roughly 1% by June. And a lot of that has to do with the SEC and these other government organizations coming after them. So that's basically the bad news. We've got 3 different government organizations coming after not only Binance.us, but Binance. We don't know what the Department of Justice is going to say. It's good that they're treading cautiously because it shows that they at least somewhat care about crypto investors in the US. But let's consider how realistic these outcomes are, as well as the silver linings in these circumstances. For starters, Binance is the world's most popular exchange. Raoul Pal recently said in an interview that it could almost be thought of as the Chinese empire's kind of chosen horse, so to speak, because CZ is Canadian Chinese and Coinbase is the only other exchange that could possibly compete on a global stage with Binance. So if Binance goes down, so too could potentially China's soft power. So that's one thing to consider. The other thing to consider is that, granted, now this is self-reported, but the assets on Binance right now are $54 billion. That is a very liquid exchange. They've always been a very profitable company. To be honest, I don't worry about them having liquidity issues. I don't think that they're going to have the same issues that FTX had, where they were taking all of their customer deposits and funneling it over to Alameda Research and then dumping that into super risk-on shitcoins, essentially. I don't see that happening. This company has already been through a bear market. They know what to do, and they've got a global presence. Not to mention the SAFU, the Secure Asset Fund for Users. Fun fact, that actually started as a typo. It said funds are safe, but with a typo, SAFU, and then they turned it into a fund worth $1 billion. And this is kind of a last resort in case the shit really hits the fan. And you can go and you can just search this SAFU for Binance on Google, and it'll show you all of these addresses. So in terms of just stable coins, they've got 100 million in true USD. They've got 1.3 million BNB, which is worth just shy of $300 million. And then in terms of Bitcoin, they've got 16,277 Bitcoin in there, worth $450 million, give or take. So it's not like all of their reserves are held in Binance coin, BNB, or even a less time-tested coin. The majority of this is in Bitcoin, which is strong. Also, earlier this year, when the markets were dipping, that had dipped down into the 700 millions range, and they bumped it back up to $1 billion by adding more liquidity. So they have a proven track record of keeping this SAFU fund stocked with $1 billion in liquidity, not to mention their general liquidity that they have. Binance is largely committed to transparency. So if you look up the proof of reserves for Binance, they show evidence and proof that Binance has funds that cover all of our users' assets one-to-one, as well as some reserves. That means if I deposit 400 Bitcoin onto Binance, then they have to have 400 Bitcoin in reserve. Now, I know that this could slightly contradict what I said about the DOJ and the concern about the bank run, Ultimately, I know that these are multi-billion-dollar companies, and if they wanted to be shiesty, there would be a way to get around this proof of reserves thing. However, I personally do not believe that it is going to be a liquidity issue for Binance. I think that they've been making fat money for years now, and I don't worry about their liquidity. I don't think anything Binance related is really that big of a deal. To take everything into consideration, let's map out the list of possibilities for everything. Let's talk about Binance first. Possibility number one, they are guilty of fraud at a incredibly high and sophisticated level, and they do an FTX, crashing the markets. A lot of people's money gets stuck on exchanges. I think that this is super unlikely. I really would be extraordinarily surprised if this happens due to Binance's track record, their commitment to transparency, and their experience in the markets, to be honest. Situation number two, they are guilty and they have to pay some fines. I don't think this is going to matter. I think this might lead to a temporary drop in price, but ultimately the world keeps on ticking, and there are still plenty of countries and plenty of VPNs and ways to access Binance for non-US users. Situation number three, Binance is completely innocent and they continue to tell the US regulators to suck it. I would say that this is less likely as well. I think number two is my most likely scenario. They are found guilty of some sort of malfeasance, but the fine and the punishment will be comparatively light. Okay, now let's talk about Binance US. Binance US situation is a little bit different. The SEC has very clearly outlined what issues they've found with their management. The CEO just left. I don't think it's looking good for them, to be honest, but I don't think that we should worry because it's a very small marketplace, comparatively speaking. They only accounted for less than 1% of the entire crypto trading volume a couple months back. As these allegations continue, I don't see that going up. They do say they have 7 years of runway. It's possible that they're found guilty and then they have to pay some fines. It's also possible, though I think probably less likely, that they go down completely. I think they would sooner go down because of lack of interest in their platform rather than some explosion like with what happened with FTX. And then, of course, the third possibility is that they're found not guilty and everything is good. And I think that is very unlikely. In conclusion, I'd say Binance is going to be totally fine. I think Binance US, I think news will break that they did something wrong. I think the SEC will be right. I think that people will probably hear, oh, Binance is guilty, and not pay attention to the .us part after Binance. There will be a slight dip in the market, and then people will realize, oh, wait, Binance is fine? Okay, nobody cares? Sweet. And then the markets will recover. So I don't think this is a black swan event by any means. I don't think this is anything to worry about. I think that if you look into it, there's a lot of FUD because the prospect of a major exchange having something wrong with it is all too recent thanks to FTX. But when you look into it, I don't think there's much there. So I hope this video has been informative. I hope it's been helpful. If you guys have questions, if you disagree with anything I'm saying, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Of course, if you like this video, please punch that like button and hit the subscribe so that you can see all the future videos. Admittedly, I was over on TikTok making short form content, and this is far more difficult for me right now. I've had to do so many takes of this video, and I know that the editing is straight ratchet. So if you're still here, thanks for sticking. I promise I'll get better as time goes on. Tell your friends. Though the editing might be trash, the information is solid. So hope you like it. Hope to see you next time. Thanks so much.